This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We simply analyze the use of weapons and other props in movies from a historical and cinematic perspective. This content does not in any way promote violence or advocate the misuse of weapons. Viewer discretion advised. Well, I think it's about time we cover another gangster movie on this channel, and since we already went over the Scorsese classic Casino, I figured it was time to cover what is no question his most popular mob movie that was also released back in the early 90s, and that movie is, of course, Goodfellas. With the screenplay written by both Nicholas Pileggi and Martin Scorsese, the film was also directed by Scorsese and released back in the fall of 1990 to widespread critical and audience acclaim. Not only was this film a box office success, making $47.1 million back on its $25 million budget, but also went on to be nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, with Pesci winning an award for Best Supporting Actor. The film is an adaptation of Pileggi's 1985 nonfiction book Wise Guy, with both pieces of work following the rise and fall of Mafia associate Henry Hill from 1955 to 1980. The film stars Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta, Lorraine Brasco, and Paul Sorvino. But it wouldn't be a true gangster film without a nice variety of different weapons to cover, which this film has no shortage of. So let's not waste any more time, and let's see what kind of weapons are used in the hands of these wise guys. So sit back and enjoy as we cover the weapons used in Goodfellas.
You want some?
The film opens up with a car driving down the highway in New York in the year 1970. After the 3 men inside start hearing a strange noise coming from the back of the car, believing it may be a flat tire, they pull the car over to the side of the road. They quickly realize that no, it's not a flat tire, but instead the very much still alive body of a man they put in the trunk earlier in the film. After one of the men, who we learn later is Tommy DeVito, stabs the man multiple times in the stomach and chest with a large kitchen knife,
Still alive. No.
one of the other men, Jimmy Conway, then pulls out a snub nose Smith & Wesson Model 36 and fires 4 shots into the man, finally killing him. Introduced in 1950, some versions of this revolver are still being produced to this day. It's a double action, single action, which can hold a total of 5 rounds chambering 38 special cartridges, as well as features fixed sights with an exposed hammer. Later models and variations had shrouded or concealed hammers for pocket carry, like the Model 38 Bodyguard or the Model 640 Centennial. After the new design of this gun was introduced at the International Association of Chiefs of Police Convention, a vote was held to determine what the new name of this revolver would be, which ended up becoming the Chief Special. And it was produced under this name up until about 1957, when Smith & Wesson switched over to using numerical model numbers, where it then became the Model 36. Compact and easy to conceal, this revolver was highly used and well liked by lawmen over the decades, especially by those who were detectives. The original Model 36 version came equipped with round butt grips, making it more ideal for those who had the need for more concealability. However, for those who wanted a little more control when shooting, Smith & Wesson introduced a square butt variation in 1952, providing a larger grip surface, allowing for that added control. Slightly less concealable, but made it much easier to handle. The Model 36 is seen frequently throughout the film in the hands of a few different characters. Again, it's first seen when Jimmy uses it to finish off Billy Batts, who we find out later in the film is the man they had in the trunk at the beginning. Later on, we can see Henry's character use it to beat the shit out of Bruce for hurting Karen. Tommy is also seen using one when he's beating Billy to death, or so they think at the time. He actually beats him with it so badly that the gun breaks. And then again later when they're playing a card game, Tommy is also seen wielding a 36 in the air, joking around how he's like Humphrey Bogart in that movie where he played a cowboy. And, what was the name of that movie again?
The Oklahoma Kid.
Shane? Oklahoma Kid.
Oh yeah, that's right, thank you. While waving around his Model 36 in the air, he fires off a bunch of shots at Spider, telling him to dance, and winds up shooting him right in the foot. Also, if you didn't already know, the actor playing Spider here is Michael Imperioli, who would later go on to play Christopher Moltisanti in the hugely popular TV series The Sopranos. Funny enough.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
He wasn't the only Goodfellas cast member to land a spot on the show too. Tony Sirico, Lorraine Brasco, and Frank Vincent would all go on to be prominent characters in The Sopranos. Believe it or not, actually 27 people who had a role in Goodfellas would go on to play in The Sopranos. Although many were just quick, easy to miss cameos, but still a cool fact. Another scene of Tommy with the Model 36 is in the beginning of the film, when the crew is hanging out at the Bamboo Lounge, and Tommy jokingly points at Henry for saying,
"You're a funny guy."
That's it, Henry. That's it, Henry.
We can also see Henry armed with one again when they go down to Florida to beat up that drug dealer guy.
You're gonna pay? Just give us the fucking money. Huh? I can't.
Later on in the film, when Henry and Tommy are hijacking a truck, they both are seen holding the driver at gunpoint.
Don't move. Take it easy.
Go ahead.
Tommy's gun is covered by a brown bag, while Henry appears to be armed with a sawed-off side-by-side double-barrel shotgun, which in Italian is sometimes known as a lupara. The term lupara comes from the Italian word lupo, meaning wolf. Traditionally, full-length shotguns were used in rural Italy for hunting and protecting livestock from predators like wolves. The term lupara likely originated from these early uses, as the Italian word lupara translates roughly to for the wolf in English. Mario Puzo's The Godfather, in its 1972 film adaptation, helped introduce the word to a more global audience. In the novel, Puzo describes mafia hitmen carrying luparas, reinforcing its connection to contract killings. The one in the film looks like it could be a sawed-off Stevens 311, but we only get a very quick shot of it, so it's pretty tough to identify this one exactly. If any of you guys know, definitely let me know in the comments. But fortunately, being that it's a double-barrel shotgun, most models, especially older ones, generally operate in a similar way, so we can still go over the general specs. Double-barrel shotguns like the one Henry uses almost always feature the break action mechanism, where the barrels hinge open to allow the gun to be loaded and unloaded, most commonly done by flipping the top lever, sometimes called the action release. This effectively disengages the bolt from the barrels, allowing them to open. Another common feature are the two barrels, pretty obvious from the weapon's name. The barrel configuration is most commonly either side-by-side or over-under. The one which Henry uses is a side-by-side configuration. They usually either chamber 12 or 20 gauge cartridges, with 12 being more common. You might be asking yourself, why in the world would someone take a perfectly good shotgun and chop off the barrel in stock?
Jesus, the fuck is this? What does it look like? It's a fucking sawn-off shotgun, okay? It's what you asked me to fucking get you.
Well, let's take a look at a few reasons why.
What is this, a pirate gun?
Yeah, it's old school, man.
One of the more obvious reasons why someone would do this is increased maneuverability. Cutting down the barrel in stock makes it greatly more compact, much more useful for tight spaces and close-quarter combat. On top of being compact, this also makes for greater concealability, without reducing the power of the weapon. The gun's ability to do this made it quite an attractive weapon to certain criminals like bank robbers, mafia enforcers, and bootleggers. Another big reason why someone might do this is for a wider shot spread. By cutting off the barrel, you remove the choke, which results in a sawed-off shotgun producing a wider pattern, increasing the chance of hitting a target at short distances.
We shoot somebody with this fucking thing, it's gonna kill everybody in the fucking room. Well, tell them that.
However, this comes at a cost of accuracy and effective range, making the weapon almost ineffective beyond short distances. The other weapon used in the scene by the character of Tommy is a snub-nosed Smith & Wesson Model 66 revolver. The Model 66 is a stainless steel variant of the Smith & Wesson Model 19. It was manufactured in 1970, but was not actually introduced to the public until 1972. The Model 66 is a 6-shot revolver which chambers .357 Magnum cartridges. One of the main reasons for offering this weapon in stainless steel over carbon steel is its superior resistance to rust and corrosion. Very beneficial to users who need a firearm that can withstand harsh conditions. The barrel lengths most commonly come in either 2.5 inches, 4 inches, and 6 inches. Among police officers and civilian shooters, this weapon was a favorite and well received by many for its power, reliability, and manageable recoil. Production of this model ceased in 2005, primarily because at the time most law enforcement agencies had shifted towards using semi-automatic pistols over revolvers, but the Model 66 was again reintroduced in 2014 as part of Smith & Wesson's Classic line, with an updated internal locking mechanism and 2 new barrel lengths, 4.25 inches and 2.75 inches, 2 lengths previously unavailable in the original model. After holding the driver at gunpoint with it, Tommy can be seen firing it off into the air as they drive away in the truck. It is again later used by Tommy in the end of the film during the Great Train Robbery reference. Another character that can be seen with a snub-nosed revolver in this movie is that of Karen Hill. After finding out that Henry's been cheating on her,
He's my husband! Get your own goddamn man!
she decides to wake him up from a nap by putting a Smith & Wesson Model 64 in his face. Produced from 1970 to 2021, the Model 64 is a 6-shot K-frame revolver which chambers 38 special cartridges. The Model 64 is the stainless steel counterpart to the Model 10, and was Smith & Wesson's second stainless steel revolver, following the Model 60, which was the first. Widely used during its lifespan by several police agencies, this weapon was specifically a popular choice in high humidity states because the stainless Model 64 was much more resistant to rust and corrosion than the blued Model 10. The original two configurations came offered either as a 4-inch barrel with square grips, or a 2-inch barrel with round grips like the one Karen is armed with. A version with a 6-inch barrel was made in limited numbers, making it quite a valuable and sought-after version by collectors. This appears to be one of the only times we see this weapon used in the film. Interestingly, there seems to be a continuity error in this scene between the gun models, where here you can see it as the Model 64, but in a few other scenes like this one, it appears that Karen is now holding a Smith & Wesson Model 60, which can be noted from its 5-round cylinder, and the barrel length which is slightly longer than that of the 64. This also is the one that Henry looks to take from Karen and threaten her back with.
Are you crazy? Huh? I got enough to worry about getting fucking whacked on the street. I go home.
I'm guessing some of you are probably thinking, how the hell do you mess that up? But there's a few reasons why errors in gun continuity when filming a movie, especially a major picture like this one, can happen. For one, scenes are rarely filmed in a single take, and unfortunately the same takes may use different props due to availability or minor on-set adjustments. A character might start with one gun in an earlier take and then have a different model in another take, like we can see here with Karen's character. Sometimes post-production edits can splice together different shots of the same scene, so maybe they filmed one whole scene with the Model 60 on one night and another whole scene with the 64 on another, and then chose to mix and match them just for preference. The Smith & Wesson Model 60 is a 5-shot revolver that can be chambered in either .38 Special or .357 Magnum. An interesting fact about this model, like I stated a little earlier, is that it was actually the first stainless steel revolver to ever be produced, which is pretty cool. Introduced in 1965, it's still being produced to this day. Supposedly after its release, this model's stainless steel production proved so popular that there was actually a waiting list at gun shops for up to 6 months to purchase one. This scene here with Karen pointing it at Henry seems to be the only time we see it used in the film. During the scene of the first card game, if you remember from the clip I showed earlier, Tommy shoots Spider in the foot with his Smith & Wesson Model 36. Like that of his real-life counterpart, Tommy DeSimone, aka Two Gun Tommy, Pesci's character is usually armed with, you guessed it, 2 guns. Tommy DeSimone, the character who Tommy DeVito, played by Joe Pesci, is based on, was an American criminal associated with New York City's Lucchese crime family who is alleged to have participated in both the Air France robbery and Lufthansa heist.
At the Lufthansa cargo terminal at Kennedy Airport, the FBI promised to break their silence soon with a press conference.
No, son of a
WIMS will be there.
As well as believed to have committed numerous murders, including killing William Billy Bats Benvenna in 1970. According to the real-life Henry Hill, the real-life DeSimone would bring his gun with him in a brown paper bag on truck hijackings, with Hill stating, "Walking down the street, he looked like he was bringing you a sandwich instead of a .38. DeSimone went missing in 1979 and is believed to have been murdered. It is widely believed he was killed by the Gambino family as revenge for Billy Bats' murder, but still to this day, his body has never been found. Alright, back to the guns. If you pause the movie at a certain frame during the first card game, we can see 2 handguns hanging out of Tommy's waistband. During the second card game of the film, Tommy uses his other gun, an M1911A1, to kill Spider, firing 6 shots into his chest.
What's the world coming to?
Durable, reliable, and greatly iconic, this recoil-operated semi-automatic handgun, which chambers 45 ACP, is an updated version of the original M1911, which was designed by the late great John Browning. Adopted in 1911 by the US military and updated to the A1 in 1926, this gun saw extensive use in World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, remaining as the US military's standard sidearm until it was finally replaced in 1985. But not only has the weapon made a name for itself in the military world, but it's also had quite the history in the criminal underworld as well. Some of the enforcers of Al Capone's syndicate, like Frank Nitti and Jack McGurn, were allegedly very fond of the M1911 as their sidearm of choice. Although this is not super well documented, so I don't want to confirm that with absolute certainty, being that it was designed for military use, this weapon was incredibly durable and built to withstand harsh conditions. Not only this, but the 45 ACP round was and still is well known for its power, all of which made this sidearm extremely attractive in the eyes of many criminals. Believe it or not, John Dillinger and his gang were among some of the very first criminals to ever get their hands on a full-auto handgun. It's well documented that John Dillinger and some of his gang members used Colt government model 1911s, which were chambered for .38 Super and modified to fire fully automatic, as well as being equipped with a 1921 Thompson submachine gun foregrip and compensator. Oh, and it had an extended magazine too, which could hold 20 rounds. Although this gun looks awesome, its actual practicality was questionable due to its extreme recoil.
Hey, you might want to step back a little bit. This thing got a little kick to it. Freeze! It's on now! Oh, shit!
Got a little bit of kick to it.
Dillinger and his gang were apparently able to acquire them from a gunsmith named Heyman S. Lehman, who was an accomplished gunsmith and leather worker out of San Antonio, Texas. Many believe he knew who he was selling these modified guns to, but throughout his life, Lehman always maintained that he knew nothing about his customers' criminal connections. I'm going to go over all this specific history in much greater detail when I cover the film Public Enemies, so definitely stay tuned for that. But for now, back to Goodfellas. One of the next guns to appear in this film is once again seen being wielded by Tommy as he uses it to execute the character of Stax by shooting him in the back of the head as he goes to put on his shoes.
Funeral.
This dude was literally awake for not even a minute and then died. Even for a Scorsese film, that's gotta be a record. Also, on a side note, I'm curious if any of you are like me and watched this movie like 4 times before noticing that Stax here is played by Samuel L. Jackson in one of his earlier roles. Tommy, in a really cool slow-mo shot, then proceeds to put 4 more rounds into him. The gun that Tommy can be seen using here is a Colt Commander, which is fitted with a silencer. The Colt Commander is a single-action, semi-automatic, recoil-operated handgun with its design based upon that of the M1911 designed by John Browning. With production of this weapon beginning in 1950, it's still being produced to this day. Colt introduced the Commander to the market following its submission to the US Army trials for a lighter officer's pistol after World War II. At the time of its release, not only was this handgun the first mass-produced American pistol with an aluminum alloy frame, but it was also the very first Colt pistol to ever be chambered in 9mm. Later on, other variants would be made to fire 45 and 38 Super. If chambered for 45, your typical box magazines have a capacity of 7 rounds, while the magazines for 9mm or 38 Super typically hold 9 rounds. It's a compact handgun, and the barrel length is only 4.25 inches. By the 1980s and 1990s, the Commander became a favorite among law enforcement officers and civilian carriers who wanted a 1911 but found the full-size too bulky, and was one of the most popular carry guns for decades and influenced the development of many compact-style pistols that came after it. If you look closely at the first shot of the gun when Tommy shoots Stax in the head, the hammer drops but the slide does not recoil.
Funeral.
This is because the gun is not loaded with blanks here, since shooting live blanks this close to a person's head is extremely dangerous, and potentially can be fatal. Just take a look at the real-life story of actor John Eric Hexum, who died on set from a blank. Later in the slow-mo shot of Tommy shooting, we can see the slide going back and the blank cartridges ejecting. Ironically, it looks like Tommy would wind up being killed by this same gun when the bosses trick him into thinking he's going to become a made man.
Oh, no.
Although that could potentially be the 1911 from earlier, it's just kind of tough to tell in this shot, but I'm going with the Commander. I do want to note whatever this is on the back wall here. At first glance, I thought it was a gun. I mean, it appears to have the features of that of like an ornamental or decorative flintlock, but from a more zoomed in image, I don't think it is. And I couldn't find anything out there anywhere talking about this being a gun, so I think it's just some kind of obscure wall decoration. But I am very curious, so if any of you guys know what this is and it is a gun, definitely let me know in the comments. Later on in the film, Henry brings a bag of guns over to Jimmy's house to sell them to fit on some suppressors he got. But since none of the guns end up fitting, he gives them back to Henry. When we get a shot looking into the gun bag, we can clearly see a Browning High Power and an HK P9S. But later when Jimmy is trying to fit his suppressors on them, we can also see him holding a Smith & Wesson Escort. The Browning High Power is a single-action, semi-automatic pistol which can be chambered for 9mm cartridges or 40 Smith & Wesson. For a great deal of time after its introduction in 1935, it only chambered 9mm, and the ability to chamber 40 Smith & Wesson was not made available until the 90s. The weapon's design was first started by John Browning, however John died in 1926, and the design was completed by, doing my best to pronounce this, Denis Save at FN several years later. With the design being complete and ready to produce by 1934, it was finally introduced in 1935, and the Browning High Power was used extensively during World War II by both Allied and Axis forces, among countless other conflicts that it made a presence in. FN named it the High Power in allusion to the 13-round magazine capacity, which was almost twice that of other designs at the time. It was actually one of the very first high-capacity handguns to come out at the time around its introduction in 1935, with really only the Mauser C96 being the other popular high-capacity gun on the market. Being a semi-automatic, it operates on a short recoil-operated tilting barrel, And between its original production years between 1935 and 2018, more than 1.5 million of these handguns were produced. There actually appears to be 2 Browning high powers used in the film, this one here in the gun bag, and a little later during the big drug bust on Henry's house, one of the cops points one at Henry's head, and this one appears to be nickel-plated. Fun fact, the undercover cop seen here holding the high power is played by Bo Dietl, who is a real-life cop and was one of the most decorated police officers in the history of the NYPD. Again, one of the other guns in the gun bag that Jimmy unsuccessfully tries to fit a suppressor onto is the HK P9S. This is a German semi-automatic designed by HK in the mid-1960s. The variant P9S began being produced in 1970, going up until the early 1980s, with some sales continuing into the 1990s. The S stands for Spanabzug, which means double action trigger, which refers to how the gun itself is double action since the original version P9 was single action only. These versions were much more popular and widely produced than that of the original HK P9, since the ability to fire using both double action and single action was much more ideal for military and police. This was actually one of the very first pistols to feature a roller delayed blowback system, making it quite unique among other handguns on the market at the time, but also at the same time quite expensive. The P9S most typically is chambered for 9mm cartridges with a 9-round capacity. However, the P9S target model was offered in either 9mm or 45. This gun was known to be fairly accurate with a smooth trigger. A few drawbacks, however, that hindered the success of this gun was that one, it was pretty expensive to manufacture, and another reason is its more limited magazine capacity compared to others at the time. On this handgun, the hammer is concealed within the slide, making it ideal for concealed carry and helping to prevent it from snagging on clothing when being drawn. One really cool feature of this handgun, and one which is typical to European pistols, is that the magazine release is heel mounted. We only see this pistol when Jimmy tries to fit on the suppressors. We never see it fired in the film. The other gun out of the bag that can be seen in the hands of Jimmy in the very back is a Smith & Wesson Model 61. Also known as the Smith & Wesson Escort, or simply the Pocket Escort, is a subcompact semi-automatic pistol chambered in .22 and was designed specifically for self-defense. Produced from 1970 to 1973, there's believed to be a little bit more than 65,000 of them built. However, some speculate that there may be more in circulation due to early reliability issues. When customers sent them back for repairs, it was rumored that instead of fixing them, Smith & Wesson employees would simply grab a new one off the production line, restamp the serial number, and send that one back. While there's no official documentation of this practice, that would be pretty funny if that's true. This pistol was based upon the Astra Cub and Colt Vest Pocket, and came out around a time when Smith & Wesson was trying to break into the small self-defense pistol market. Chambering the .22 caliber ammo, its magazine can hold a total of 5 rounds, which is not too shabby for its size. The nickname Escort comes from the pistol's small size and ease of concealment, for it could accompany its owner everywhere. Again, it had quite a short production run, being discontinued in 1973, with Smith & Wesson realizing the market for pocket pistols was just too small, as well as for the fact that, at the time, snub-nose revolvers were becoming incredibly popular, and they wanted to put their efforts back into their revolvers that were already doing really well, like the Chief Special, which at the time dominated the concealed carry market. After Jimmy gives back the guns and tells Henry to
Stop with those drugs. They're making your mind into mush. You hear me? Take them back.
Henry then decides to try and sell them to his Pittsburgh connection. In the scene, his Pittsburgh connection pulls a gun out of the bag not seen from earlier, which appears to be a Beretta 87 Cheetah. The Beretta Cheetah is a line of compact, blowback-operated, semi-automatic pistols designed and manufactured by Beretta. The Model 87 was introduced in 1980 and was mainly designed for target shooting and training as it's chambered to fire the .22 long rifle. It features an ambidextrous safety similar to larger Beretta models, and the magazine capacity holds 8 rounds. Again, being chambered for .22, it was mainly used for target shooting, training, and small game hunting, rather than being a weapon used for self-defense. The one in the film here appears to be just a standard 87 model. However, there is another variation, the Target model, which featured a longer barrel, typically 6 inches, an extended sight radius, and a Picatinny rail for mounting optics. During the drug bust on Henry's house, while Karen is trying to get rid of the evidence, she pulls out from her dresser a nickel-plated Iver Johnson X300 Pony. This compact, semi-automatic pistol is chambered in .380 ACP with a 6-round magazine capacity. Its design lineage traces back to the Star Model DK, introduced in 1956 by the Spanish company Star. Firearms International later started importing this design into the US and rebranding it as the FI Model D. After Star stopped producing the gun and FI stopped importing them into the US, apparently Iver Johnson was able to acquire the rights to manufacture their own version. The Pony was marketed as a compact and affordable alternative for those seeking a small, reliable firearm for personal protection. However, it was criticized by some for its manufacturing quality, noting issues with reliability and performance. Due to its relatively limited production numbers and unique place in Ivor Johnson's history, the X300 pony has become a collector's item among many firearm enthusiasts. Ivor Johnson began producing their version in the late 1970s, featuring a 3-inch barrel suitable for concealed carry, like Karen's character, who sticks it down her panties. I really hope she had the safety on. Towards the end of the film, once shit has really started to hit the fan for Henry, fearing for his and Karen's life, while she sleeps and he lies awake, he can be seen armed with an Astra Constable. Later on, when Karen gets scared that Jimmy is trying to have her whacked, she drives home in a panic, and a startled Henry comes to the door where we can again see him armed with the Astra. The Astra Constable is a double-action, single-action, semi-automatic pistol produced by the company Astra and Seta Isia from 1969 up until 1922. The design is almost identical to that of the Walther PP. Its magazine capacity is 8 rounds, and depending on the model, it can chamber either 22 LR, 32 ACP, and 380 ACP, and it was designed as a handgun for civilian self-defense, police use, and military use. It was basically a lower-cost alternative to the Walther PP and PPK. A second variation, known as the Astra Constable 2, came out in the 1980s that featured some minor ergonomic improvements, as well as a variation known as the Astra A60, which featured a steel frame for better durability. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.
And that's that.
Thank you for watching.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
If I got anything wrong or if I missed anything, just let me know in the comments. Happy to fix it for future videos, and if I come back to this video in the future, definitely want to make sure it's right. Check out some more videos on the channel if you enjoyed this one. Hopefully we'll see you in the next one.